Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to the Commissioner Prabhupada. All glories to our revered speaker for today, His Grace JIVA TATTVA Prabhu. And all glories to the assembled Vaishnava devotees. Devotees, we thank you all for being here today. It's the first day of a new month, November. And we are still within the glorious Kartik period. So it's very wonderful. We have one of our own, His Grace JIVA TATTVA, who will be speaking to us from the Nectarian Srimad Bhagavatam. So without further ado, Shri JIVA TATTVA Prabhu, please, you may take it over while we put the verse on the screen. Thank you so much, as always. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, first of all, please accept my humble obeisances. Happy Kartik Mass to everyone. So, the daughter of Geetila Sundari, which is Radharani, she is the presiding deity. So, we all seek her shelter at her lotus feet. And of course, we just had Diwali. So, happy belated Diwali to all devotees, as well as Govardhan Puja is coming next. This month is full of festivities. Hare Krishna. So, Sadhya Prabhu, okay. So please join us in the invocation prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriyet Shavatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shamana Kirtanaha Hridayantastho Bhadrani Vidhunoti Suhasatam Nashta Prayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatir Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. Hare Krishna. So this is a beautiful chapter that we'll be visiting in this particular verse, where Vidur finally meets Maitreya. But what is the background? How did he end up meeting Maitreya? So that has been described in these some verses, and as it has been revealed by Uddhav. So please join us in the recitation of this verse, Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 4, verse 10. Tasyanuraktasya munir mukundaha pramoda bhavanat kandharasya ashravato ma manuraghasa samakshaya vishramayan uvacha. Word for word translation. Tasya, his, Maitreya's. Anuraktasya, although attached. Munehe, of the sage. Mukundaha, the Lord who awards salvation. Pramoda bhava, in a pleasing attitude. Anata, lowered. Kandharasya, of the shoulder. Ashrinavataha, while thus hearing. Mam, unto me. Anuraga hasa, with kind smiling. Samikshaya, particularly seeing me. Vishramayan, allowing me complete rest. Uvacha, said. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Maitreya Muni was greatly attached to him, the Lord, and he was listening in a pleasing attitude with his shoulder lowered, with a smile and a particular glance upon me. Having allowed me to rest, the Lord spoke as follows. Purport. Although both Uddhav and Maitreya were great souls, the Lord's attention was more on Uddhav because he was a spotless, pure devotee. A Gyan Bhakta, or one whose devotion is mixed with the monastic viewpoint, is not a pure devotee. Although Maitreya was a devotee, his devotion was mixed. The Lord reciprocates with his devotees on the basis of transcendental love and not on the basis of philosophical knowledge or fruitive activities. In the transcendental loving service of the Lord, there is no place for monastic knowledge or fruitive activities. The gopis in Vrindavan were neither highly learned scholars nor mystic yogis. They had spontaneous love for the Lord, and thus he became their heart and soul, and the gopis also became the heart and soul of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya approved the relationship of the gopis with the Lord as supreme. Herein, the Lord's attitude towards Uddhava was more intimate than with Maitreya Muni. Hare Krishna. Please join us for the Prabhupada Pranati and seek blessing. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarine Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripa tadaham vande Shri Gurum Dina Taranam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So there are some very interesting terms that have appeared. In this particular translation, Srila Prabhupada is directly referring Muni as the sage. Muni is one who is maun, who is, constantly in deep meditation. And sometimes people look at Muni word and they say, oh, Muni means one who is maun, means one who's not speaking. And Srila Prabhupada very clearly goes against this mindset of, general worldly people, the materialists, saying that no, basically Muni refers to only speaking about God. A person who's a sage, person who's a Muni, he's not engaged in the worldly gossip. If you open the newspaper, it's filled with gossip and doesn't even last 24 hours. It gets replaced the very next day. While this knowledge in Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Charitamrita, this is absolute. So it doesn't change with the time. Yes, based on time, place, and circumstances, we apply the knowledge. Yet at the same time, knowledge on its own is absolute because it is spoken by Lord Shri Krishna. And of course, Srila Vyasadeva, who wrote Srimad Bhagavatam, is the literary incarnation. And Srimad Bhagavatam itself is the literary incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we have to look at from the right perspective that there is book Bhagavata and there is a person Bhagavata. Now, if you are the richest person in the world, raise your hand.
Hare Krishna, Sadhu Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So I raise my hand. I'm wondering why no one else is raising the hand. It is only about our realizing that Bhoktaram Yagatapsam Sarvalok Maheshwaram. So who is the proprietor of all spiritual material worlds? Lord Shri Krishna. And who are we? He is Aham Bij Pradhapita. So he is the seed-giving father. And who are the seeds? We are the seeds. Right? So we are the sons and daughters. Right? If we are his children, then of course our father is the richest one. That makes us the richest one. Because if we engage with the right consciousness and be the Muni, be the sage in our lives. So this is I'm going to reveal some of the interesting aspects that devotees sometimes don't realize. They are so much into the, literary discussions or so much being affected by the worldly thoughts that they don't realize that when we come to Krishna consciousness, we actually transcend the three modes of material nature. But what does that mean? That one simple aspect is that we are all the richest persons in the world because we have taken to Krishna consciousness and we realize that Lord Krishna is our father. He is our true father. And if he is the richest, we being the sons and daughters, we also become the richest automatically. And in this regard, for the devotee, Srila Prabhupada in Nectar of Devotion has given a guiding principle, a guiding aspect, which is our guide when we take to Krishna consciousness. Tatte anukampam susamekshamaano bhunjane vatmakritam vipakam hridavak vapurvir vididam namaste jivetya mukti pade sadaya bhak. Daya bhak means rightful owner. So, Lord's anukampa, we are constantly seeking his shelter, constantly carrying out our activities in Krishna consciousness. So we are carrying out our duties, which also refer to our physical, the body that we have received, our prescribed duties, as per the varnas, and our soul has its dharma, which is Jivera Suruphe Krishna Nityada. So both have to be aligned when we carry out our activities. And we accept all the reactions that are coming because of our past activities, because then we were not in true realization. We were not realizing that we are children of the Lord, and our only purpose is to serve the Lord for his pleasure. And so, when a devotee starts to look at life from that perspective, then suddenly things seem to transform, and they realize that, just like a son becomes the rightful heir of the father while carrying out the activities dutifully under father's protection, under father's shelter, similarly devotees who constantly continue to vididam namaste. And how? Hridavak vapurbhya. Hridaya, vak is of course by words, vapur is by the body, and hridaya is referring to not the heart but mind in this case. So Sanskrit, yes, in whatever order you put the words, the meaning does not change. But based on the context, the meaning changes. Sometimes we see Atma refers to just the body, and then Atma refers to body and the mind, and sometimes Atma refers to body, mind, and the soul, and Atma refers to body, and then the gross body and the subtle body. So these various combinations go on because of the context. But the meaning, once you understand the context, remains the same no matter how you order. So this is another aspect of Sanskrit. Now, so when we look from that perspective, we realize that actually we are the richest people in the world because we have taken the shelter of Lordship. And so we should be carrying out the austerity of mind, body, and words. An austerity of words or austerity of speech, one of the main aspects is that we should constantly recite the Vedic mantras as well as engage in serving the Lordship with our words. So again, that purifies us. So Krishna consciousness is a process. It's a journey that we have taken to constantly purify our existence, taking the shelter of the Lordship, surrendering to him. And during this month of Kartik, this is a special occasion because even little effort that we do has millions of times returns, right? So if you're looking for stock market, there cannot be a better stock market than this one because this month, little effort has millions of time returns. So we should all be muni, we should all be sages of, by following the austerity of mind, body, and speech. And the activities you can perform is only through these three media: mind, body, and speech. And so automatically, in due course of time, we become the rightful owner. Now, let me ask you another aspect. How many of you think that you are liberated? Raise your hand. So it's very interesting that no one is raising the hand because it's again is based on the context. The context is there are 5 types of liberations, right? There is Sayujya Mukti, that we merge into the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is Sarupya, having the same form of the Lordship as the Lordship. Then there is Samipya, being closely assisted. Of course, Salokya, which is residing at the same planet as the Lord. And then there is Sashti, which is having the same opulences of the Lord. Now, can you tell me of any place in this universe where Lord is not present? Sadev Prabhu. Do you know of any place where Lord is not present?
He is everywhere.
He's everywhere, which means we are in Salokya. That's one of the liberation. But are we in true consciousness? Are we conscious? Are we cognizant of this fact that actually, when we take to Krishna consciousness and realize Lord's presence everywhere, then we are in Salokya. Yet at the same time, we should also understand not to imitate, because that's Paraka Sahajiya's mindset, to say, oh, I'm now interacting with the Lordship. No, the simple process given by Srila Rupa Goswami and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is that even a devotee who's at the topmost level carries out, who has already attained perfection, carries out regulative duties as being instructed by the acharyas in disciplic succession. So we should all be carrying out our duties very sincerely. And always remember that Lord is watching, so you cannot cheat him, right? He's number one in everything. So he's number one in being, causelessly merciful. Yet at the same time, he's number one in being the richest and number one in giving, but he's also number one in taking. So we have to think from the right perspective that Lordship is there in our, yet at the same time, and our senses are too dull. Atah Shri Krishna namadi na bhave graham indriya sevon mukhe hi jivado swayameva sprutyada. So Lord Krishna's name, form, activities, pastimes, na bhavet. We cannot perceive this indriya, these senses that we have, the gross material senses. Sevon mukhe hi jivado. So when we engage our tongue in seva, which is, and through our mouth, as well as jivada is by tasting prasadam, the remedies of the food that has been offered to the Lordship, Krishna Prasad. So when we discuss, Ishta Goshti, when we have this discussion about the Lordship like we are having here, as well as when we are taking prasadam, the purification happens. And Lord himself manifests to us. So yes, this is Nabodamas. And we have to understand this is the basis. Why was there 2 fingers short? This rope was 2 finger short. Why? Because it's to remind us, and Acharya has revealed this to us, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur extensively identifies that 1 finger identifies R and Jiva, and the 2nd finger identifies, the width of the 2nd finger, identifies Lord's mercy. So this is also Tattva Anukampam Susamishpanu. We have to carry out our duties and completely depend on Lord's mercy. Now, here, sometimes when we look at these aspects, we are all on a journey. We may be meeting at this juncture in this particular life, yet at the same time, we are on at different stages of our journey. And when we are continue to progress on our journey, just like Uddhav is revealing to Mahatma, means Vidwan Vidur in this case, he becomes Mahatma after meeting and taking shelter of Maitreya Muni. He has not yet met. Vidur is having conversation with Uddhav. So let me bring to the background of this, this chapter. And Vidur has inquired about Lord Krishna because he had heard about Yudhishthira Maharaj, the Pandavas, leaving the kingdom and going to Himalayas. Now, Uddhav has just revealed that it was Lord's arrangement to wrap up his business in this material world and go back home, back to Godhead, along with his associates. So, Krishna so dhama padyate dharma jnanadhi saha kala nishta dishamesha purana ko adhurepita. So Lord has gone back. So when these are the sages, in the first canto, they are asking that whose shelter has religion taken after Lord has gone back? So in the response, Sutta Goswami is revealing that in this Kali age, Bhagavatam has arisen like a sun to destroy the darkness of this Kali age. And this is after Lord Krishna has gone back with Dharma Gyan Adi. So Dharma is religion, Adi, as Gyan is all the knowledge and all auspicious qualities. So here, Uddhav is revealing to Vidur, and Vidur can see all symptoms appearing, the ecstatic symptoms appearing in the body of Uddhav. And Uddhav is continuing to describe that after the Yadus, the men who had gone to Prabhas, they fought with each other, being intoxicated and completely bewildered and thinking of each other as enemies. So this is all Yogmaya acting, not Mahamaya. So again, we have to also understand that Lord's internal potency, when she acts, sometimes even Lord gets surprised. He's surprised. So she is just carrying out as he wants. So again, that's also a very important aspect, right? As Lord desires, things are happening. And so here, the Yadus, they have killed each other. Lord has walked over and taken shelter under a tree at the bank of Saraswati River. Now, currently, the Saraswati has gone underground. But back then, it was flowing. And this is where he's sitting and Uddhav arrives. And Lord smilingly looks at him. And at the same time, by providence, by Lord's mercy, Maitreya Muni also arrives, sage Maitreya. So when we talk of sage, sage is a person who is constantly glorifying and preaching about the Lordship and enabling us to become pure by their words. However, there is a difference identified. There is a difference identified in this particular verse when Shukdev Goswami is revealing it to Parikshit Maharaj, saying that at this time, there was a difference, and Srila Prabhupada further identifies it in the purport, that Lord's focus was more on Uddhav. Why? Because he regarded Uddhav as a very close associate. Uddhav also has like a sarupya, not the four-arm form, but similar features as Lord Krishna. And he is samipya also because he's a very close associate. He's the advisor, the trustee, the messenger of Lord Krishna. And he is, of course, as is revealed in the later verses, that he is one of the Vasus in the day of yore when everyone was worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead along with Lord Brahma during the yajna. He actually had a desire to be closely associated and have the form of the Lord, same form as the Lord. So that's how he got this boon by the causeless mercy of Lord Krishna. So again, identifying that we have to depend on causeless mercy of Lord Krishna. He had very similar features as Lord Krishna. He was the cousin of Lord Krishna, and from childhood itself, he was constantly meditating on Lord Krishna. He was a student of Brihaspati, a very exalted personality. Brihaspati is the spiritual master of the demigods. And when he came to Lord Krishna, he was serving. Lord Krishna actually sent him to Vrindavan. Why? To take a message. But that was not the main purpose. Lord Krishna sometimes does one action but satisfies many purposes. One of the important purposes of sending Uddhav and not anyone else is because Lord Krishna wanted to glorify the gopis and the residents of Vrindavan. In the eyes of Uddhav, when he met Nand Baba and Yashoda Mai, he could see that they had practically become like skeleton in the separation from Lord Krishna. And Mother Yashoda, she made kheer because Krishna loves kheer and she brought it for Uddhav. But she herself was not even eating and drinking properly. And he could see, just looking at Uddhav, she was like shedding tears thinking of Krishna because Uddhav looks very much like Krishna. And same thing happened to the gopis. And Uddhav learned, he stayed there for months, learning about the deep devotion, the deep love these gopis had. And he desired to be their follower. Right? So he desired to be a Raga Nuga, yet at the same time, his position is already there at Dwarka. Right? He is a resident of Dwarka. We all understand the spiritual world as a close messenger of Lord Krishna. And because he desired to follow the gopis, then the gopis are glorified as also being, evident in Chaitanya Charitamrita that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called their love to be the highest. Now, sometimes people say, oh, so the gopis were not literate, they were not great karmis, they were just carrying out and they were just attached to Lord Krishna. So that means we can all be attached to Lord Krishna, but we have to also look at the background of these gopis. Many of these gopis are expansion of Radharani. So they are Ragatmika Bhakta, right? Bhaktins in this case. So they are, in a spontaneous love with Lord Krishna. And those positions are already taken. Nobody can take those positions. Some of these gopis were actually at Dandakaranya. Yeah. So Naimisharanya and Dandakaranya. Dandakaranya was the place where Lord Ramchandra, after he was, asked to live for 14 years and live forest life, one was. So at Dandakaranya, there were sages, and when they looked at Lord Ramchandra, they had the same desire to be in conjugal love with Lord Ram. And Lord Ram he had taken one Patni Vrata. But and there's no difference, they knew that there's no difference between Ram and Krishna on the absolute platform. Yes, Ram is avatar and Krishna is avatari. We do understand that. And that, Shri Vishnu becomes the media through whom all these incarnations they appear, the Leela avatars and the Yuga avatars. And Lord Ram accepted them to be the gopis. So they were born as gopis in Krishna Leela, and they were able to associate with the Lordship. So it's not that they just were like this, village girls and they suddenly had no spontaneous. After many, many births of engagement in devotional service, many, many lives, one gets to that platform. And Uddhava, he was feeling blissful in the association of gopis because he was learning how to follow them. And Maitreya Muni is a very close friend of Srila Vyasadeva. Right? So somebody can say Vyasadeva is a Shaktavesh avatar. He is empowered incarnation of Lord Krishna. So his friend has to be, great scholar. Yes, he was a great scholar. Yet at the same time, the aspect of monastic knowledge has been identified. And so to make this clear, I would like to reflect back in the first canto itself in Srimad Bhagavatam, where as soon as Shukdev Goswami took birth, he ran for the forest, right? And who followed him? His father Vyasadeva followed him. Shukdev Goswami, while running to the forest, there were a lake he passed by, and there were some ladies, they were taking bath and they were naked. So when Vyasadeva was passing, suddenly they looked at Vyasadeva and they covered their bodies. And Vyasadeva said, when my son ran past you, you did not cover your bodies. But when I am passing, why are you covering your bodies? The ladies replied that your son is a self-realized person. So he does not distinguish based on the external appearance between man and woman and so forth. So there was no need for us. But you are a grihastha and you make that distinction. So we had to make that distinction. So we had to cover our bodies when you are passing by. Now, on the other hand, the same action of not covering the body can be done. These ladies were in proper knowledge, but somebody could do this in ignorance as well, or being intoxicated, which is the mode of ignorance. Like the two sons of Kuvera, they were with Apsaras in Mansarovar, they were taking bath, and Devashi Narad passed by, and they did not cover their bodies. Does that mean Devashi Narad does not distinguish between the bodies of men and women? No. The Apsaras immediately covered their bodies. That's a sign of respect to the sage. But these two sons of Kuvera were completely intoxicated, not just with liquor, but also, they were not in proper senses, that's there. But why were they intoxicated and such a Kshetra? This is Lord Shiva's, area near Kailash. They were not paying attention to Devashi Narad because they were thinking, they were careless in a sense. And so they were cursed by Devashi Narad to become the Arjun trees. And then when they asked for forgiveness, then Devashi Narad changed. He said, yes, you will still become the Arjun trees, but in the courtyard of Nand Baba, Nand Maharaj. And Lord Krishna will deliver you. So he will, and we know in Damodar Leela, Lord Krishna, he brings this, the wooden grinding mortar between the two trees, pulls it, and those two trees come crashing down. And from there, two effulgent personalities, Nal, Kuvera, and Manigriva, they appear, they circumambulate the Lord, sing his glories, and Lord blesses them with pure devotional service and asks them to return, and they go back home. So go back home to Kuvera again. They're still in the demigod positions, but as pure devotees by the mercy of the Lordship. Now here, one important aspect is that matrimony is still having that monistic aspect. And once somebody has even a tinge, that mixed devotion, then they are not considered Uttamadhikari, right? That doesn't mean that, Uttamadhikari is like the three categories. There is categories within categories. So he is, yes, exalted on that particular level, but he doesn't have the pure devotion as Uddhav has. So matrimony doesn't have that. And in this regard, there's a beautiful verse in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Anya Bhilashita Shunyam Gyan Karmadya Navritam Anukulena Krishna Anushilanam Bhakti Ruttama. Now, when we look at this particular verse, sometimes people look at Anya Bhilashita and they think it's Anya Bhilasha. Abhilasha is having desire. But Anya is no other desire. But there is a word of Anya Abhilashita. Why did Rupa Goswami wrote Anya Abhilashita instead of Anya Abhilasha? Because every time the residents of Vrindavan are a great example for this, they are in trouble. Who did they call out? They call out to Lord Krishna. Krishna, save us! In Govardhan Puja, right after that, Indra sends some Vartika clouds to annihilate all the Vrajvasis, literally to drown them in these waters of annihilation. And as soon as those drops as big as pillars start falling, the cows, the brahmanas, the residents, they all take shelter of Lord Krishna, and Lord Krishna protects them. So that's why Anya Vilashita is there. Anytime a devotee is in trouble, they call out to Lord Krishna. So that's why it's Anya Vilashita. Shunyam. So all other desires are shunya. They are all nil. Yet, in this regard, they have full surrender and they seek only shelter of Lord Krishna. Jnana karmadya navritam. So not covered by two things. Jnana. This is the monistic knowledge that's being talked about. And that's the mix that Maitreya Muni has, Sage Maitreya has. And that's why he is not considered on the same level as Uddhav. And karma adi. So again, fruitive activities. So that's another aspect. When we perform some activities, we have this expectation, I'll get the return. But those who perform the activities for the pleasure of the Lordship. Why? Because Anukulena Krishna. So all activities should be as Lord Krishna desires, not as we desire. Lord has given us the abilities, so we should carry out all the activities based on the abilities that we have received as Lord Krishna desires, for his pleasure. Anushilanam. Anushilanam refers to following the footsteps of acharyas, following in disciplic succession. So these are important factors. That kind of devotional service, those activities are Bhaktir Uttama. They are Uttam Bhakti, pure devotional service. That's the definition of pure devotional service. And when we perform at this level, then it's very easy to realize that if I am constantly trying to please the Lord, then Lord is also here. I am constantly accepting whatever is coming my way as mercy of the Lord. See again, in this material world, in the material consciousness, the material world looks like dukkhalayam ashashvatam. It is temporary and it is place of misery. But if we are in full Krishna consciousness, then we are not in this material world. That's another aspect of our consciousness. Are we cognizant of it? When we are in Shri Kshetra or when we are in temple premises, that is transcendental abode. That is not part of this material world. And if we have temple in our house, how can it be part of the material world? It is all transcendental. And all our activities, when they are dovetailed for the pleasure of the Lordship, then how can there be anything negative? So in transcendental platform, nothing negative exists because it becomes a part of Vaikuntha. Kuntha refers to anxiety. A place where there is no anxiety is Vaikuntha. So what is the consciousness needed in that particular? What should be our consciousness when we are carrying out the activities? Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kankshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim lavate param. Lord Krishna reveals that one who is at the Brahma bhuta stage, na shochati, does not, lament for the past, and na kankshati, does not aspire for the future. They are focused on the present moment. So the present moment is also called present. It's a gift. And during the month of Kartik, it's a gift which is to be cherished. Every moment is precious here. Samah sarveshu bhuteshi. They look at all other living entities with equal vision. How? That we are all children of the Lord. Mad bhakti labhate param. And what are the activities? That they are constantly engaged in my devotional service. Param. So that's their main goal. That has also been identified. So when we start to take this verse, also along with the guiding principle of Tattva Anukampam So Samakshimanu, we realize that all our activities, the moment we are performing a material activity, we are actually inviting Mahamaya to give us that surrounding of Dukkhalayam Shashvatam. How many of you like to be in distress? Nobody would, right? We're all Anand Bhaya Abhyasat. We're all seeking happiness. Then why would we engage in material activities? Why not engage in Krishna conscious activities from the beginning? And then how do we engage in Krishna conscious activities? That is coming in this particular verse also, that as Maitreya Muni, sage Maitreya has also come, and Lord is smiling and looking at Uddhav. So Lord is focusing on Uddhav. Why? Because Uddhav is a pure devotee of the Lord, a close associate of the Lord, very dear to the Lord. And Lord also recognizes that Maitreya needs more purification. And Lord makes an arrangement to purify Maitreya through Vidur. Did you know this? So again, it's given extensively in Padma Puran that Vidur, when he meets Maitreya, he asks various questions. And these, when responding to these questions, Maitreya is diving deeper into the knowledge that he had acquired. And so those bhava stage starts appearing in his heart. That ecstatic love, the spontaneous love in ecstasy towards the Lordship starts manifesting in his heart. That's why when we engage our, Hridavag Vapurvi, our mind, body, and sense of speech in Lord's service, then all of them are getting purified. And we are becoming closer and closer to Krishna, yet at the same time, we can only see Krishna when Krishna desires. And now, there is also another purpose. Lord Krishna has a message. So Lord Krishna has already wrapped up his pastime. He's wrapping up his pastime, planning to go back home, back to Godhead. And he doesn't have, he can if he wants to. But sometimes Lord wants to glorify his devotees. And Uddhav also wants to go back with the Lordship, just like Shukdev Goswami, he was Shuka, Radha Rani's parrot. He wants to go back home with her. But she says, no, you have to be here for a purpose. So in this way, the spotless pure devotees, they attract Lord's attention, and Lord is very, proactively making an arrangement to glorify these devotees. So Lord wants Uddhav to carry a message to Nar-Narayan Rishi and Bhadrika Ashram. Now, Nar-Narayan Rishi are, incarnation of Lord and Arjun. So again, these two personalities. So when they are already incarnation of the Lord and Arjun, somebody could say, why do they need a message? Well, they need that message as earnestly as previously Vishnu needed to see Lord Krishna. So there is a pastime where Arjun was in Dwarka and a Brahman lost his sons one after another. And he would bring the dead body of his son to Ugrasen's palace and say, "You are not performing your duties. Why are my sons dying? The father alive and the children are dying." That's not so. Arjun thought, okay, even Krishna Balaram cannot help. Can't even just say, again, I will protect your sons. So his wife was also expecting. He calls Arjun. Arjun meditates on who? He doesn't meditate on Lord Krishna. He had heard whole Gita. But now he's thinking even Lord Krishna could not save, so I have to take shelter of Lord Shiva. And he meditates on Lord Shiva and he covers the whole hut with his arrows. And as soon as the baby is born, it vanishes. And now the Brahman is saying, Arjun, you are not able to keep your promise. And as per your promise, you said that if you cannot save my son, you will enter fire. And as he's entering fire, that's when Lord Krishna stops Arjun. And he says, let's go and get his sons. And he takes him to Garbhu Daksha's abode. And so here, Srila Prabhupada is explaining that Vishnu himself wanted to see Lord Krishna. He was so eager. Similarly, Narayana Rishi was waiting to hear the message of Lord Krishna. And to pass on this message, he wanted to send his messenger and his dear devotee Uddhav. So the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is also referred to as Uddhav Gita. Just like we have Bhagavad Gita, the Gita Upanishad. Similarly, that's in Mahabharata. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the 11th canto is where Lord Krishna is passing this instruction. Now, sometimes people say, okay, he's passing the message and Uddhav is there, Maitreya is there, and Uddhav will just take the message and take it to Narayana Rishi. Why is he asking questions? Right? Why is the messenger asking questions? Well, when you want to pass on a message, you need to understand the message well. Otherwise, the message may lose the very purpose behind what is being written. And in this regard, I'm reminded of a very old incident back in, India had just got independence just at the same time as Pakistan. So India was split into two, India and Pakistan. And in 1971, there was a big war because India realized that Pakistan is enslaving the East Pakistan. Today we know it as Bangladesh. So they were not treating as equal citizens. So at that time, there was one instance where Indian army had surrounded the Pakistani army. And the message, they said, we have surrounded, what's the next action? So the message was sent, and the way the telegraph message used to work, they didn't have commas, semicolons, dots, like those periods, the punctuations. So it said, Roko mat jane do. So it says, stop, don't let them go. The way the person who received it read it as, don't stop, let them go. So let them go. And the other army was like, okay, we are free, we are out of this scenario. And then when they reported back, we let them go. Why would you let them go? The message was, stop, don't let them go. No, I read it, don't stop, let them go. So it's very important for us to clarify when we get a message, to clarify what is the true meaning behind the message. Why are we giving this message to great ascetics who are already self-realized souls? So Uddhav is asking those questions. And Maitreya Muni is getting the benefit. But we also have to see, by the example of Maitreya Muni, even the Lord is not paying attention to him. He is keeping his head down, his shoulders lowered, and with intent he is hearing the message of Lord Krishna. So we are in our journey, seeking some purification. And Lord Krishna reveals in Bhagavad Gita, Yajna, Dana, Tapa should not be given up here. So sacrifice, austerity, and charity should not be given up even by pure devotees, because these activities purify even the pure souls. So again, there is no upper limit. We can continue to get purified, to purify, to purify. This is what has also been revealed by Srila Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's writings, where they are saying when gopis are looking at Krishna, Krishna becomes, he appears more beautiful. And because of looking at Krishna, they appear 10 times more beautiful. And Krishna, looking at the gopis, he looks at them and he becomes more beautiful. So there's a spiritual competition constantly going on. So similarly, we have to take shelter and take advantage of this amazing Damodar Mass, Kartik Mass, to take shelter of Lord Krishna and seek his mercy while carrying out our activities for his pleasure to purify our very existence. And the best way to purify is, of course, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And in this way, we seek to attract the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, his glance, his smiling, pleasing glance, so that we get purified and we feel, by his mercy, his presence in our life, and overcome this material consciousness that seems to keep coming back and forth. So there was one instance where devotees were telling Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, we are always in Krishna consciousness. Sometimes we go out and we get surrounded by Maya, so we're in material consciousness. I'm paraphrasing a bit. So Srila Prabhupada said, no, sometimes you are in Krishna consciousness. Most of the time you are in material consciousness. So that's our state. It's very easy for the material energy. She does not want to let go. She's the jailer. She doesn't want to let go of the souls that are in this material world. So when a material, in this material world, a soul is trying to escape, she's making sure that the test is stringent. So we are constantly being tested. However, when we take shelter of Lord Krishna, we get special mercy of Radharani, right? And one of the important things, how do we get special mercy of Radharani? By not committing any offenses. Aparadh. Offenses means against Radha. So we are acting against Radha when we commit offenses. And these offenses can be done by mind, body, or words. So we have to be very, very careful, dear devotees, that this particular month of Kartik especially, and of course every time, anywhere, everywhere, we should constantly sing the glories of the Lord and his devotees, because when we sing the glories of the Lord, the devotees smile, and when we sing the glories of devotees, Lord smiles. And taking shelter of Bhagavatam, again, and person Bhagavata, we can make our life sublime. Tantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Anant Koti Vaishnava Vrind ki jai. Hare Krishna. Do we have any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. It's grace given to Prabhu. Lots of information. That also means quite a number of questions, doubts to be cleared. So dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, realizations you may want to ask or share, please. You may indicate that by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to ask your question. His Grace Shimavara Prabhu, please you may unmute. Hare Krishna.
Jai Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. Jiva Tattva Prabhu. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to the assembled devotees. Am I clear? My voice is clear?
Yes, you're very clear.
Good. Thank you.
Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Sheshi Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Yes.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Your class is always full of realization. You asked us questions and I think trying to explain better some things. But I would like to know if can we say that because the sun rays is everywhere, so in that light we are in the sun planet. Do you get my point? Can
No,
we say
yes, I do get your point. Yes.
because the sun rays is everywhere, so we're in the sun planet?
No,
Is
we
that
are
right?
not on the sun planet. Sun rays is
So
everywhere.
now,
Go ahead.
yeah. So can we now say that because Krishna is everywhere, we're living in the same locale with him? Is that right?
You have to look at it from a different perspective. So yes, your point is true that we are not on Krishna Loka Goloka. However, Krishna is everywhere, right? As the super soul. And we have taken shelter of Lord Krishna. So the place we are living is transcended to the material world. So if you are in the temple premises, if you have turned your home into a temple, when you have Srimad Bhagavatam at your home, you are in the presence of Lord. So we have to look at it from that perspective. So again, its context changes. And when you look from that perspective and you are actually acting on that platform, for those moments when you're acting on those platforms, you're not in this material world. So in those particular instances, the sun planet has come to you in this case. Yes, sometimes we use analogies, as Acharyas also revealed, yet at the same time, those analogies are just a way to explain things to us. I'll give you another example in Bhagavatamrita. The Brahmana had met this young Gopa boy in Vrindavan, right? And then, based on the Gopa boy's journey as being revealed, Gopa boy is going again to another planet and then coming back to Vrindavan. So he was in Vrindavan from the beginning. He comes back to Vrindavan multiple times, right? That was his revelation of his consciousness was getting purified every time he was coming to Vrindavan. And then finally he realizes that actually I was home from the beginning, but I didn't realize the presence of the Lordship. I didn't realize the presence of Radharani. And it was on the order of Radharani that he is revealing all this to the Brahman. So from that perspective, and when Lord Krishna is present everywhere, in reality, on the transcendental platform, can there be any misery? Let me ask you this way. There cannot be any misery on a transcendental platform.
Yes, actually, I have another part to that question, but then
Sure.
let me also say something about what you just said.
Yes.
So, like you rightly said, that this word is Kunta, and the Lord is in Vaikuntha. So, place without anxiety and misery, and the Lord is in a place where we're in the world of full of misery, right, and anxiety, and the Lord is in Vaikuntha, right?
Material world is full of misery. Go ahead.
Yeah, right. So now that's I wanted to ask that, and now you just said something again, push that off. So now if the Lord is present, can there be misery? No. But just like the example of the sun rays and the sun planet, we're in this material world where we may not do anything from our own activity as devotees to bring misery. And we're in a condition, we're in an environment where miseries are present. And threefold miseries are present. You can escape them. Even though you don't do anything to bring about the misery, but then there is misery caused by, say for instance, COVID-19. What have you done? Nothing. You are in that environment. You are locked up. And the many things you suffer, even though you may not contract the disease, but then you're suffering because the environment is polluted. So what about that?
So,
I hope you get my point.
Yes.
So Krishna is there, right? But then, we're in the environment. Environment is not pleasant. Yes, Prabhu.
You made my answer very easy. The misery you are referring to is referring to the material body. But we are not this material body. We are in this world. We are not of this world. So for the living entity, there is no misery. Because when Lord, we are taking shelter of the Lord, and a soul, again, I'll give you an example. Sometimes the soul is sent into this material world. But do you think that's a miserable state? When we fall sick, we go to the hospital. And what happens at the hospital? The doctors, the nurses, they take care of us and our disease is removed. And then we get healthy and we go back home. That's exactly what our journey is like. Now, does this mean that the hospital is outside the city, has to be city boundaries? No. The hospital could be very well in the center of the city. So we are sent to this material world because we have contacted the material disease. We have become envious of Lord Krishna. And so we are given this body, and now we are thinking under the influence of material energy that I am this body. So when the COVID happens, people are thinking, oh, this body will get destroyed, means I will get destroyed. In reality, that pertains to the body, not to us. We are in this world, not of this world. And from the spiritual platform, everything that happens is actually good. But because of our material consciousness, become part of the dualities. The dualities we start seeing in this world. Good and bad, hot and cold, happiness and distress. That's where the material consciousness comes, and with material consciousness comes dukkhalayam shashvatam. But with spiritual consciousness comes that absolute platform where we are constantly serving Krishna and cannot be in miserable state. So we are already in Vaikuntha. That's why temple premises, Srila Prabhupada clearly writes, is not part of this material world. So if it's not part of this material world, which loka is it? It's Vaikuntha. It's part of Vaikuntha. Let me ask you another question. People go to Vrindavan, right? Why do they go to Vrindavan? Vrindavan is still Bhauma Vrindavan, it's in material world. So that means they are not in Vaikuntha? No, because devotional service is spontaneous. Automatically people engage in devotional service. Everyone you're crossing is saying Radhe Radhe. They are calling out. Everyone is engaged in devotional service. So everything is transcendental. And that's why it is not part of this material world. It is Vaikuntha. And of course, the Lord Krishna himself says that everyone who is resident of Vrindavan is my relative. When he says that, relative means related, and Lord is there. We look at Archivigraha form. Different people look at the same deities, but they look at the deities with different mindset. Some people call it, oh, these people are engaged in idol worship. There is a statue they're worshipping. Some people are saying, oh, this is Jagannath, he's the Lord of the universe. Let me ask all kind of things I want in my life to enjoy this material body, to have for the pleasure of this material body. And then some people are saying, I have been Lord Krishna has been order supplier for so many births. Let me be his order supplier. Let me take his order and please him by service. So again, it's our consciousness. Lord Krishna is on the absolute platform. We are on the relative platform. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Just let me ask the last one.
Yes, please.
You also mentioned about the different level of consciousness, especially you said that Uttamadhikari is of different levels. Right. Okay. Then we often hear I'll say one level most often, the level that they cannot preach, because they are not seeing differences. They see everybody as devotees. Now, I'm just thinking that sometimes it becomes very difficult to practice what we read. You want to be transcendental? I mean, you're already in a transcendental consciousness, right? And you're seeing the Lord everywhere.
When we are discussing Bhagavatam, we are in direct touch with the Lord.
Right, right. And then when we're not discussing, we have to put them into practice. What happens? What happens? Because then my point is, at that time, some problem exists, and the problem is people are not in the same level of consciousness with you. And you want to start acting on a transcendental platform, you're going to create some disturbance. People are going to look at you crazy, strange. And how do you think that? You either stop acting transcendentally and be normal, or you just avoid people altogether. So sometimes putting into practice some of those things can be difficult. Yes, I hope you get my point, Prabhu.
I'm reminded by Srila Prabhupada's phrase, what is the difficulty? It's all born of our mind. We are creating it for ourselves. We have to break that barrier. We have to realize, and of course, Srila Rupa Goswami clearly says if someone thinks that they are, pure devotee, right then and there the fall has happened. They have fallen from their state. A pure devotee, the more, and this is true, if you ask a PhD person how much you know, they will tell you there is so much they do not know. And that's why the more we engage in devotional service, the more we understand there is so much we do not understand. There's a wealth of knowledge, there is a wealth of love, there is a wealth of greatness about Lord Krishna, so much so that Lord Krishna himself does not understand his own greatness. Ananta Shesh, an incarnation of the Lord, he's singing glories from his 1,000 mouths for eternity and is still not done. So we have to go by Sadhu, Guru and Shastra. And the Acharyas revealed this to us, that we cannot, we have to still continue to perform our regulative principles, follow the regulative principles, follow our duty, engage in devotional service, and try to overcome mind. And anytime that we see that there is misery, we immediately, try to have shelter of someone senior to understand, why am I feeling this? So that the person can help us overcome that barrier. That's why we seek the shelter of sadhu. We seek the shelter of shastra. We seek the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, so that we can overcome these barriers that are created and the three kinds of miseries that exist only in material world: Adi Daivik, Adi Bhautik, Adhyatmik. Of them, the Adhyatmik one, the one that's created by mind, is 99.99999% or more. It's just creating a mountain out of a mole. We have to just understand it's actually just a mole and overcome it. So this is where it is said, Shukdev Goswami in Brahma Vimohan Lila, near the end, he's revealing this blessing, that one who has taken shelter of the Lordship, this material world, which is like an ocean, Bhav Mahasagar, right, has come down to the size of a calf's hoof print. And if somebody says, can you jump over the calf's hoof print? Yes, it's very easy. But first we have to see it, that it has become the calf's hoof print. And that happened by the mercy of Lord Krishna. And Lord Krishna, he wants to glorify his devotees, so he will test us. And he knows how impure we are. We are very impure in our hearts. And so we are taking shelter of engagement in devotional service for his pleasure, not because we have become so pure, because we need purity. That is the purpose. So again, our goal is different. We want to get love of Godhead, but to be able to get that love of Godhead, we have to purify our existence. Hare Krishna. Does that answer your questions?
I'm grateful, thank you. But please, I beg your indulgence to go one step further. Just one more.
Actually,
I don't want to dominate this, but I beg you, our indulgence just for one more, please.
okay. All
It's
right.
your explanation of Uttama Adhikari is what I'm trying to understand. When we get the understanding that Uttama Adhikari, they see on the transcendental platform, and for this reason they cannot preach because they don't distinguish, they don't discriminate. That kind of answers all questions. Then we don't start asking questions. But then if we think that we can be at that level and still act transcendentally, then it brings some questions, because people are not on your level, and there's going to be some disturbances. That's the point I wanted to clear. When we understand that the Uttamadhikari, they kind of just avoid Christian activities, because they do not discriminate. They cannot discriminate, right? That's understandable, and it answers all the doubts. But then if you say that people can act transcendentally, on any level, we know what trouble we run into. Even from our little small level, you want to see Krishna, and all kind of things happen. All kind of hell break loose. So this is maybe Prabhu, you are My world is different from my world. But the world where I am here, you better be careful not acting too transcendentally all the time. You're going to run into trouble. Yeah, that's my point. Thank you very much, sir, for allowing me to ask so many
So-
questions at once.
Sometimes, yeah, I just want to address Ms. Srila Prabhupada was very soft in his dealings. When he would deal, means he was very strong in his writing. He would chastise very strongly, like, these people are rascals. He would say that. But when he would meet someone who's actually saying the same thing, Srila Prabhupada never called that person a rascal because that would drive him away from Krishna. He would want to bring closer to Krishna. So when somebody said, can you show me Krishna? So Srila Prabhupada sometimes gives the example, do you have the eyes to see Krishna? Another time, a very arrogant person was constantly, he was not sitting down. And so Srila Prabhupada at that particular time said, you are standing between me and Krishna, so I cannot see. And he was right in the middle, of the hall, and Srila Prabhupada could not see the deities. So sometimes we have to give the response accordingly. And my response is, oh, you want to see Krishna? Yes, I want to see Krishna now. So again, now itself, then you'll have to do something for me. I ask him, can you make me, meet the president right now? President of the United States. I want you to make me meet the president of the United States right now. And the person says, no, it's not that easy. I say, why? What is required? It's like, I don't have the contact. So I have to go make the contact. Oh, okay, I made the contact. Now I have to ask the contact to make an appointment. Okay, ask the contact to make an appointment. The contact would make an appointment and, it has to be sanctioned. So there is, even in material world, we have to go through so many steps to see someone. And now you're talking about seeing the proprietor of all the universes, Lord Shri Krishna. Is it that easy? So we have to see from the right perspective. And that's why Shastra Chakshush. When you talk about Om Jnana Timradasa Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshur Unmilitamena. So you have given me the sight. Otherwise, I was in the darkness. Why are we saying these prayers? Because we are glorifying the spiritual masters, saying that by your mercy, I am able to see. I have that vision. It's not sight of material eyes. It's the vision of our heart. That Lord is residing in our heart, and we realize that actually He is present. And that's why we should be, having that Samadharshana, that we are all related to Him. And then when we act, we cannot act irresponsibly. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the questions, the beautiful questions and the wonderful answers. I actually had a comment plus question, but it seems they are both kind of answered by the last response you gave to Srimad Acharya Prabhu's question. Because like we're all trying to discuss, we belong to this organization called ESCOM. And this organization is a preaching organization. That means that we see good and evil. Whereas those on the transcendental platform, they do not see good or evil. One time, there was a discussion by Srila Prabhupada and some of the disciples and a visitor. And the disciples were saying, actually the visitor was saying that, Swamiji, you are a pure devotee. And the disciples also said, yes, Srila Prabhupada, you are a pure devotee. And Srila Prabhupada said, no, I'm not a pure devotee. If I were a pure devotee, I would not be preaching. But of course, we know Srila Prabhupada is a pure devotee. But because he sees good and evil, he was speaking that way. So what Srimad Acharya Prabhu was saying is that if we all kind of accept that there is no place where Krishna is not there. So Krishna is everywhere. So wherever we are is the spiritual world, because wherever Krishna is the spiritual world. That may be true in one sense, but in another sense, that is also not true, in the sense that most of us are suffering or enjoying, and whether the suffering or enjoying are all coming from Mahamaya. Whereas some people may be enjoying or suffering, but enjoying or suffering is coming from Yoga Maya. So whether it is suffering or enjoyment from Yoga Maya, they're all enjoyment. Whereas whether it is suffering or enjoyment from Mahamaya, they are all suffering. So, but I think the answer you gave to the last question, that even though Srila Prabhupada was very heavy in his writings, but he was also very soft when he was dealing with people. Therefore, my understanding from that viewpoint is that, yes, we can be very strict with ourselves, but we can also be very gentle to the non-devotees and have compassion on them that, okay, yes, this is the reality, but you are not there. Probably me, myself speaking, I'm not there, but I understand that we can be there. So in this way, we can continue with our preaching work, because that is what this movement is all about. I don't know, Shri JIVA TATTVA PRABHU, if you have something to say in this regard.
Hare Krishna, you very nicely summarized it, Sadev Prabhu. And that's the essence, that what is our consciousness telling us? Because on the transcendental platform, there cannot be misery. And who's taking shelter of which Maya? It's not Krishna that driving us, it's we. We have that minute independence. We have that independence to decide whose shelter we want. And it is us who's taking shelter of Mahamaya, and then we are crying out, there's so much misery. Many times when we see, some pure devotees, they're leaving this planet, it was like, oh, now we are in separation. Yes, there is separation, but with instructions, you can still do the seva. So again, we have, you can do seva to the body or seva by following the instructions. And it's very clearly given in the Shastras that by following the instructions, which is Anusharan, right, we are taking. So Vapu Seva or Vani Seva? Vani Seva is much higher, following the instruction. And Srila Prabhupada so many times said, Bhagavad Gita, when we read Bhagavad Gita, the instruction that Lord Krishna gave to Arjuna is available to us through Bhagavad Gita right here. And when we follow those teachings, when we have that proper understanding and purify our actions with that mode, we are actually walking the right path. And he's a loving father. Krishna is a loving father. He's not a, like a judge, we are right and wrong. No, he sees little good, a small, child. What can the child bring to the father? But if the child brings just a small flower, my dear father, I got this flower, or I got this glass of water, for your satisfaction, please be pleased. He becomes merciful, he smiles. And he knows where we are. And he knows where we want to be. We want to be close to him. So when a father sees a sincere effort by the child, father reciprocates. So Lord Krishna is the supreme father. He reciprocates when we have the right mindset. But when we start judging others, that's when father becomes upset. You're not carrying out your duties and you're finding faults in others' duties. Or you're finding faults, in facilities which is provided by Mahamaya. That means you are still sick and you are not really improving. You want to stay in the hospital for a longer duration because you don't want to let go of this disease. So it's not us who's making the decision. It's not Krishna who's making the decision. It is us. That minute freedom that we have been given, we are taking shelter of Mahamaya. We are doing that to ourselves. Then we cannot complain. Krishna is not to be, he's not the culprit. We are the ones held responsible.
Yeah.
It reminds me of an interesting short story that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to share. So this story is that a murderer is brought in front of judge, and it's proven that he has murdered. But he said, but I cannot be held responsible because it's this body that did. I didn't do anything. So judge very nicely smiles and said, don't worry, I'm only punishing this body. I'm not punishing you. Hare Krishna.
Hare
So,
Krishna. Thank you. Thank you so much. Two witty people. Well, probably I have a question about infiltration, because yesterday was Diwali. And like you rightly said in the beginning of your Krishna Katha today, we're talking about the Diwali yesterday. And I'm not very old in Hare Krishna movement, but I recall, even as young as I am, when I joined devotional service, we were not observing Diwali. Because yesterday was a Diwali, we had a devotee speak on this platform yesterday, and we talked a bit about the Diwali because it was the day of the celebration. And there were quite a number of questions concerning Diwali and its observance in ISKCON. I could not contribute because I had to leave untimely. But luckily for us, you are speaking today. Broadly speaking, you are of Indian origin. And you have been a devotee for quite some time now. But my question is, was it ever practiced when Srila Prabhupada was physically here with us that we celebrate Diwali in any special way, like the way we celebrate Guru Purnima and Krishna Janmashtami?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So Srila Prabhupada did establish Ram Darbar as the deities, Lord Ramchandra, Lakshmana, Sita Mata, and Hanuman. So we have those examples where he did establish Ram Darbar. Now, why we were not celebrating Diwali, that's a question I would like to answer first, because everyone is relating it to Lord Ramchandra, not realizing that it was on Diwali, Damodar Leela happened. It was on Diwali that Narkasur was killed and Lord Krishna, had 16,100 wives accepted. So when we look from the right perspective with right knowledge, then we understand. And then what is the purpose of Diwali? It's a festival of lights. There are so many stories and Puranas that they are related to Diwali. There's a beautiful story of a mouse. A mouse wanted to, hungry. The mouse approaches the lamp and thinking of the wick and the ghee to be butter, tries to take it. But what happens was that the fire catches on its whiskers and spreads to the other part of the cotton. And suddenly the lamp starts lighting very nicely. But the mouse is on fire and it's jumping up in front of the deity and loses its life. Now, because Lord Vishnu saw this small service by this mouse doing accidentally, Agyat Sukriti, sometimes people refer to it, Lord became pleased and allowed that mouse to be born as a princess in the next life and kept the memory intact that the last moment you did was little seva to me. So every Diwali and Dashera, this princess, she would have millions of lamps lighted all around the kingdom. And when people inquire, she's like, I remember this instance for my last life by the mercy of the Lordship. So we have to understand, in reality, in the life of a devotee, every day is Diwali. Every day is Festival of Lights, provided we want to drive off the ignorance in our heart. That's what Lord Krishna is telling it to Arjuna for our benefit, that Yajna Dan Tap, sacrifice, charity, and austerity should never be given up because it purifies even the pure souls. So when we say, why is a pure devotee constantly engaged in devotional service? Because they are engaged in purification. There is no upper limit to purification. And so from Diwali perspective, we see the victory of good over evil. But that's externally we are saying. In reality, we have to win over the evil in our heart with the good abilities that Lord has provided us. It is a call for action. That's why Srila Prabhupada didn't say bhakti is devotion. He said devotional service is an active engagement. So in the life of a devotee, every day should be Diwali. Every night should be filled with lights, and every day should be festival of colors, because there are so many colors in Krishna Leela. And there are so many rasas that we hear about, and so many glories of the devotees in so many different situations that we can take shelter of. And not think of them as stories. Sometimes people say, oh, Bhagavatam is filled with stories. No, it's not filled with stories. It's filled with lessons for us to take to transform our lives. So that's an important piece. And Srila Prabhupada also said that many times his own god brothers, they would say, is there a place like Krishna Loka? How could that be? Well, they considered it imaginary. So that's like decrying and not taking the words of the Shastras and of the Acharyas to our hearts. So it's not, we have been provided things at the transcendental platform, absolute platform. But do we accept it? It's our acceptance, it's our transformation that's needed. If we don't do the transformation, then jnana karma, again, they will cover up, and that causes hardening of heart. And do you like to eat hard butter? I don't think so. Krishna likes soft butter. So we have to churn our heart. We have to churn, and purify our existence so that our heart becomes soft like sweet butter, and Krishna becomes anxious to steal it. We want him to come and steal our hearts. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. I have one last question, if you still have a few minutes with us, Prabhuji. See, one special benefit I find from trying to study the Bhagavatam and having this online discourses is that I get the opportunity to try to read the verse before the following day. So I read the text we discussed today. I read it yesterday. And surprisingly, there were some few things you mentioned that they are directly related to the text and the purport, but I never saw them. Even if I saw them, I never understood them the way you said it. And that also tells me the importance of Sadhu Sangha. When we come together, even though we may know something or we may think we know something, but when we have this wonderful association, then there is more opportunity to have more access to Krishna's mercy. And with that, I would like to ask this question, because prior to today, you speaking, I was under the belief that whoever is attached to Krishna is a sign of being a pure devotee. But as I'm understanding, that doesn't seem to be the case, because it's said in this text that Maitreya was attached to Krishna, yet he was not a pure devotee. So my question is, how come one becomes attached to Krishna and not yet a pure devotee? It's quite a bewildering thing for me to understand. Please, if you may help.
Hare Krishna. So, of course, we follow the Sadhguru in Shastra. Yet at the same time, as we continue to engage our activities, one of the things that, first of all, you have been very, very merciful. What I have covered today is not even the tip of the iceberg. This verse is way too deep for me to even touch it close enough. Yet at the same time, by the mercy of Sadhguru and Shastra, I'm taking their shelter, I'm taking shelter of Srila Prabhupada, I'm able to speak, and by the mercy of Lord Krishna, whatever I was able to share, I'm able to share. Having said that, there is another important aspect that we have to look in our lives. that even the pure souls get purified. That is revealed in Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna says that. That means there is no time that we can stop our devotional service. It's constant, and of all the devotional services, Shravanam is the most potent one because it directly enters to our heart and purifies us through our ears when we sing the glories of the Lord and his devotees. And when you talked about Maitreya Muni, there is, I can use the reference of Bhagavad Bhagavatamrita. From the very beginning, what we are saying in Bhagavad Bhagavatamrita are pure devotees. The Brahmana who's worshipping the Shila with tulsi leaves and water and giving in charity is a pure devotee of the Lord. And Devashina is saying, you are a pure devotee of the Lord. You are so glorious. You have Lord's special mercy. And he says, no, not me. Go to the south. There is a king over there. And then Devashina hears about the glories of that king. Oh, he must be a pure devotee. He goes to the king. It's like, King, you're the pure devotee of the special mercy of Krishna. King says, not me. You talk about Indra. He's the king of the demigods. He's the pure devotee. And Indra is, his younger brother is Upendra, Vamandev. And Vamandev, even in his heavenly kingdom, is referred to as not so important demigod. When I read this, it's like, wait a minute. He's the supreme personality of Godhead and being referred to as not so important demigod. But he protects Indra time and again. Indra seeks his shelter. So not so important demigod, but the king of the demigods is constantly seeking his shelter. And Indra is saying, go further. So now we hear about, Lord Brahma, we hear about Bali Maharaj, we hear about exalted personalities, and finally it all enters. After all this, we are coming to Uddhav, and Uddhav is saying, not me, I'm just serving the Lordship. His heart and soul is constantly with the gopis, and the queens, they agree. Rukmini says, sometimes he calls out the name of the cows, and sometimes he calls out the name of the gopis. We are his wives, and can you understand how we feel? And Lord Brahma makes an arrangement of, Braj Bhumi, where the statues are placed. And Lord Krishna, along with Balaram and Rohini, are sent there. And Lord Krishna is completely acting like a mad person, looking at the, statue of Radharani and like, why are you not talking to me? Why are you upset with me? Why are you keeping this man? And so that conversation, because he forgets himself when he thinks of gopis. And that's why in this particular verse, I did not even touch the surface because the time is never enough. Means we could talk about it for days and will not be done. But that purport in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is saying that Krishna is the heart and soul of the gopis, and gopis are the heart and soul of Krishna. For that, we have to read whole of Bhagavatamrita and still may not be able to touch the tip of the iceberg. Hare Krishna. So yes, and the more we read, the more gets revealed to us. But that will cause, just reading would cause hardening of heart. We have to also practice. The churning process is not that just through chanting. It's churning processes with proper attention to understand the message and applying that message. What we are getting? Yes, we are getting amazing knowledge, absolute knowledge. But that's like getting the recipe. What do you like? You like Rasmalai, Prabhu? Do you like Rasmalai? So if I send you the recipe of Rasmalai and I ask you, how does it taste? You say, I haven't made it yet. You have to follow the recipe. Once you follow the recipe, and then you say, Jiva Prabhu, this did not taste well because by mistake, I thought sugar and salt, they look white. So nothing matters. So I put salt instead of sugar. I ran out of sugar, but salt looks just like sugar, but doesn't taste like sugar. Right? That would change. So what are we mixing? Are we following the recipe properly? Or are we just saying, you know what, this thing I can't do, but that is there, so let me use that? No. We have to follow the recipe with proper guidance. And then the taste will be there. Then the rasa will be experienced. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. We would like to take this opportunity to remind all the devotees in Europe and in the United States, I would say in North America, like Canada also, that starting next week, Monday, we're going to adjust our time. So those of us here, like in the Eastern Standard Time Zone, the classes start at 11 a.m. It's going to change and it will start at 10 a.m. But the times remain the same for the other devotees in other parts of the world, like Africa, which they are so much blessed, they don't need to change their clocks. So we'd like to remind the devotees in the States and in Europe that starting next week is going to be 1 hour earlier than we usually do. And with that being said, like we said, today is Friday, is the last day of the busy week, and also the beginning of a new month. And we had the wonderful presence of His Grace JIVA TATTVA PRABHU, who was so beautiful in sharing this Krishna Katha with so much patience and so much love and knowledge. Actually, my wife, I don't think my wife knows JIVA TATTVA PRABHU in person. She saw you briefly, but she was saying, oh, she's happy to see that this is the devotee speaking today. That's nice. I think before Shivara Prabhu, you have something to say quick? Please, you may unmute.
Yeah.
Yes,
Unless if there's no time, then I can shove it. But if there's time, I want to ask a question.
Shri JIVA TATTVA Prabhu, can you take one more question?
Sure, please go ahead.
Okay. Shivara Prabhu.
Thank you. Actually, I like hearing from you. And like Sadhu Prabhu just said about his wife, I think we are many here who would love to hear from you. Sadhu Prabhu just asked this question about whether Diwali was one of the festivals that Prabhupada introduced in ISKCON. Yes, there are some observances and things about whether we were told that Diwali was part of the festivals to observe every year. That's another thing altogether. Now, some sages, some sages, I would say, claim that, like you said, you said that every night should be Diwali, every day should be holy.
Yes.
But then some sages, some scholars say that Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita, Yanisa Sarvabhutana, what is night for every living being is day for the introspective sage. And what is night for the introspective sage is night for every other person. So something like that. So we understand the importance of Diwali, and we understand the importance of light, which means knowledge, and etc. But the way Diwali is celebrated today, with all the fireworks and all the merriments, sometimes it cut off the spiritual importance. And I would want to believe maybe that's one of the reasons Prabhupada didn't make it like an elaborate thing for ISKCON, because there are certain things Prabhupada didn't introduce for the reason of how they've become or how they've been celebrated in India. And Prabhupada wanted to really diverge Krishna consciousness completely away from Hinduism. So we are not saying that Diwali is not part of Hinduism. It is it's connected to so many pastimes of the Lord. But the way it is being celebrated today, and all the fireworks that go with it and everything, maybe that's why Prabhupada didn't make it like it. Because you may read through all Prabhupada Lilamrita, you will hardly find about Diwali celebration in any of those in the Prabhupada Lilamrita, not to talk of some of the temples outside India. So this is just what I want to make as a comment and maybe a question. You can
that every night may not be Diwali, because what is night for some people is day for some introspective sages. That's what Krishna says.
Yes.
That's my point.
So,
Right.
thank you. Hare Krishna, Srimad Viracharya Prabhu. So thank you very much for your comment as well as the question. And it is matter of perspective. And Srila Prabhupada was introducing Krishna consciousness. He was not introducing Hinduism. They're two completely different things. We see caste system in India, which is evil, but we still see the Chaturvarna Maya system, Guna Karma Vibhagasha. We understand that is Lord Krishna's introduction of the four Varnas and the four ashrams. So we have to see things from the right perspective. And Srila Prabhupada, as a preeminent Acharya in ISKCON, as well as the founder Acharya, is a preeminent Shiksha Guru also. Through his books, he is revealing to us what is important. And his focus is how can we make immediate progress. And those aspects of Diwali, like the fireworks and gambling at night, these are like not favorable for Krishna consciousness. And, lighting the house at night, even Vastu recognizes, Feng Shui recognizes, it's a great thing to do. And every night, not on those special nights. But however, these special nights of Diwali, like this Kartik Mass, this is the special time when the Lord's mercy is easily available. It's on sale. Namahatta is like, marketplace of chanting holy name. But this is Goluka Premadhana Harinam Sankirtana. So this is easily distributed and Lord Krishna's mercy is easily available. That's why the importance of Kartik Mass is there, and Diwali just happens to be right in there. So it enables us to become closer to Krishna. So we're all looking for sale, and these times, these special occasions, the sale is there, but we have to look from the right perspective, not from what is followed by general populace. Because those general populace, 99% or more of them are in material consciousness. And Srila Prabhupada's mission was not to propagate Hinduism or material consciousness. His mission was single focus, Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Krishna, thank you so much, His Grace, Shri TATTVA Prabhu. And
Thank you, TATTVA Prabhu, for giving me the opportunity.
Oh, Hare Krishna, always. Dear devotees, with all humility, we're going to request you all to kindly unmute, and we all chant glorious, melodious or non-melodious Hare Krishna Mahamantra. It doesn't matter. Let us chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra to express our appreciation to our great speaker, TATTVA Prabhu, for his depth of wisdom and love for Krishna Katha. Jai. Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Hare
Hare Rama, Rama Hare
Rama,
Hare,
Hare Hare.
Vanchakapatarubhishcha, Kripasindhubhya eva cha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Bring the key, Jai.
Jai.
Please give it to Prabhu ki Jai.
Jai.
Vaishnavi devotees ki Jai.
Jai.
Next week, we have Srila Prabhupada's disappearance, so we should all try to be in the mood of the founder Acharya till the day comes. That will be Tuesday, which also happens to be election day here in the US. So we want to remind you what is Srila Prabhupada is going to be leaving us just like Shri Krishna is preparing to leave. So we should prepare ourselves before that departure takes place. Yeah, so we hope to see you all next week. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare